The moment Sophie walked into our penthouse that Friday evening, I knew something was off. She carried herself with an unusual confidence, almost arrogance, tossing her designer handbag onto the marble counter with an air of entitlement. Then, with a smirk that sent a chill through me, she met my gaze. "Adrian, I'm spending the weekend with my boss, and you'll just have to deal with it," she declared, her voice dripping with indifference. I blinked, gripping my whiskey glass a little tighter, trying to process her words. "What did you just say?" My tone was deceptively calm. "You heard me." She brushed past me, as if I were nothing more than an obstacle in her way. "I'm staying at the Grand Monarch with Victor. It's not up for discussion." Victor Ivanov, CEO of one of the most ruthless financial firms in London, my wife's boss, a man known for his wealth, power, and absolute disregard for those beneath him. Before I could react, a knock sounded at the door. Sophie barely hesitated before strolling over and opening it. And there he was, Victor himself, dressed in an expensive tailored suit, his sharp blue eyes locking onto mine. He stepped inside as if he owned the place, his presence exuding the arrogance of a man who had never been told no in his life. "She'll be with me whenever I want," he stated flatly, his Russian accent adding weight to his words. "And if you try to stop it, I'll ruin your life." Sophie cast me a pitying glance, as if she expected me to crumble under the weight of his threat. I exhaled slowly, keeping my expression neutral. They had no idea what I was about to unleash. Sophie and I had met during our university years. She was stunning, golden blonde hair, piercing green eyes, and a charm that could make men bend at her feet. We had built a life together. I had supported her as she climbed the corporate ladder in finance, while I ran my own successful consulting firm. I had given her everything, and she had thrown it all away. As I watched her disappear into Victor's sleek black car, my mind was already calculating my next move. This wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice. Victor thought he could walk into my home, disrespect me, and strip me of my dignity. He was gravely mistaken. And as for Sophie, she had made her choice. Now I was about to make mine. Revenge wasn't about acting on impulse. It was about patience, precision, and striking when they least expected it. That weekend, while Sophie was busy with Victor, I put my plan into motion. First, I called in a favor from an old friend, James, a top-tier private investigator. Within hours, he handed me a folder filled with Victor's darkest secrets: insider trading, offshore accounts, illegal dealings. Everything I needed to bring him down. Then, I turned my attention to Sophie. She thought she had the upper hand, but she had forgotten one crucial thing. Our finances were deeply intertwined. Our luxurious home, bought under my name, the lavish lifestyle she enjoyed, funded by me, her credit cards, my accounts. By Sunday evening, I had frozen all our shared assets. When Sophie returned home that night, her expression was smug, until she saw me standing by the fireplace, a glass of whiskey in hand, waiting. She set her purse down, her heels clicking against the marble floor. "What's with the look?" she scoffed. "Still mad?" I took a slow sip, watching her. "No, just enjoying the moment." She frowned, sensing something was off. "By the way," I added, "you might want to check your bank account." Confusion flickered across her face. She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, then froze. Her head snapped up, panic creeping into her eyes. "What the hell did you do?" I leaned forward, smirking. "I dealt with it." She turned to storm out, but before she could, the doorbell rang. Hesitating, she glanced at me before yanking it open. A courier stood there, holding an envelope. "Sophie Bennett?" "Yes," she answered, her voice uneasy. He handed it to her and left. With trembling hands, she tore it open. Her breath caught as she scanned the contents. She looked up at me, horrified. "You're divorcing me?" "Not just that," I said coolly. "I'm ensuring you walk away with nothing." Her face drained of color. "You can't do this." "Oh, but I already did." While Sophie was unraveling, I turned my attention to Victor. On Monday morning, I walked into his office. His assistant stammered, but I didn't give her a chance to stop me. Victor looked up from his desk, clearly annoyed. "You have a lot of nerve coming here." I set a thick envelope on his desk and leaned in. "Read it." Frowning, he opened it. His expression darkened as he flipped through the pages. Evidence of his dirty dealings. You've been a busy man, I said. Illegal trades, money laundering. If the Financial Conduct Authority gets their hands on this, your empire collapses overnight. His jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. What do you want? I smiled. Everything. He narrowed his eyes. Meaning? You will resign as CEO publicly within 24 hours. And if I refuse, then this evidence goes to the authorities. And by the way, I made copies. A long silence stretched between us before he finally exhaled, rubbing his temple. You really thought you could take what's mine and get away with it? I asked, standing tall. His lips curled into a sneer. She's not worth this much trouble. Funny, I said, heading for the door. That's exactly what I thought about you. By the next morning, the headlines were ablaze with Victor's resignation. Investors panicked, stock prices plummeted, and within days, authorities launched a full-scale investigation. By the end of the week, Victor was arrested. And Sophie? She had no idea what was coming next. She tried calling me, texting me, even showing up at my office. But I refused to see her. One evening, she managed to catch me as I was leaving work. Adrian, please, she begged, blocking my way. Her once pristine appearance was crumbling, makeup smudged, designer clothes wrinkled. I made a mistake. I folded my arms. A mistake. You threw away our marriage for a power-hungry fraud. And now that he's gone, you suddenly regret it. Tears welled in her eyes. I never meant to hurt you like this. I scoffed. You never meant to get caught. She reached for my hand, but I stepped back. You don't get to rewrite the past, Sophie. You made your choice. Now you'll have to deal with it. True panic set in. But I have nothing. My cards don't work. I can't even pay my rent. I stared at her, feeling nothing. That's not my problem. She screamed. You can't just leave me like this. I was your wife. I leaned in, my voice dangerously low. No. You were my biggest mistake. Then I walked away. Victor had fallen. Sophie was in ruins. And me? I had taken back my life. Months later, I sipped my coffee in my penthouse, scrolling through the news. Viktor Ivanov sentenced to 15 years for financial fraud. I smirked. Justice served. As for Sophie, rumors swirled that she was working as a waitress in a rundown cafe. A shadow of the woman she once was. They thought they could break me. But in the end, I was the one who broke them.